Is Pokemon Go just a humongous fad or the real way forward into the future for Nintendo and possibly other gaming companies as well? I'm Ghost Robo, and let's find out. So as we all know, Pokemon Go is a massive, gargantuan, enormous epidemic of a success. The stats and figures prove it, and it hasn't even posted in every major marketplace. But from what we have, this thing is killing it. It's on 5% of active US Android devices, which is more than Tinder. The daily active user population is greater than Twitter. The average in-app time is 43 minutes, more than Instagram. It topped the Apple App Store chart in 4.5 hours. It passed Clash of Clans and Candy Crush. It leads in downloads and revenue in places like Australia, New Zealand, United States. It's absolutely dominating the mindshare and the marketplaces for both iOS and Android. It's also crushing on Twitter, Instagram, and just conversation in general. What does this say for Nintendo? Why is it so successful? And what does it mean for the future for Nintendo and the NX and game companies? That's where I think things get really interesting. For Nintendo, this is a crown jewel of a success for them and something they needed. Their stock prices have taken a significant hit the last 10 months, and they finally rose back to the same level they were on October 29th, 2015, when they first announced they'd be delving into the smartphone marketplace. This Monday morning in Tokyo, stocks rose 25%, and they rose last week as well, adding approximately $9 billion worth of market value to the company, which is absolutely insane for just a small few-day period. Now, sustainability is the name of the game here, so we'll have to see how long Pokemon Go can last, but Nintendo has had a similar sort of experience in the past with the Wii and how they opened up to a massive market of consumers, of gamers, and introduced fun Nintendo properties to all of them, and then sort of saw all that dissipate over time. The goal and hope here is that everyone has a phone and everyone has some experience with Pokemon, and if they don't, they know someone that does, and so perhaps this can elongate and last beyond the fad that was the Wii and carry into more permanent success for Nintendo in the mobile marketplace, as well as sort of guide the way for what they're doing with Zelda and the NX. And we'll touch on that in a second here, but I think it's very interesting that Pokemon is the game that has done this. It really has been almost a cataclysmic type event. If you look everywhere, outside, inside, social media, everyone's talking about it. It is a massive... It's really undescribable. For a game that at its baseline foundational level is quite simplistic, it's crazy how much appeal it has. And I think it's because it's one of those rare products, one of those rare franchises, one of those rare just sort of media juggernauts that is cross-generational in its appeal and in its popularity and in its play. So you see things like Marvel superheroes obviously bridging that gap between generations, and you've seen things like Mario do the same, but Pokemon also, and maybe even more so than the aforementioned two, has this power of being fun and socially cool for not only 5-year-olds and 15-year-olds, but also 25 and 35-year-olds, which is very impressive. And it's one of the few rare sort of gem-type franchises, gem-type media experiences that really can have that kind of success across all demographics. And for that alone, like, kudos to Nintendo, kudos to the Pokemon Company, and kudos to Niantic, who is behind this app, and on finding a way to really bring this mass market. And not in the exact same way, but in a similar fashion. It's interesting to note how the new Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild does something kind of similar. And it seems to be Nintendo's philosophy right now to bring their beloved franchises, their beloved products to a wide range of players in a way that appeals to them. So you see The Legend of Zelda adopting a lot of mechanics, a lot of ideas from the West, from modern Western RPGs, from big open world titles, and bringing them together with the tried and true Zelda nostalgia in a way that was insanely successful. The lines at E3 were incredible, and the reviews and comments from playing the actual Breath of the Wild were also insane. It ended up winning Game of the Show for pretty much anyone and everyone that was there. I personally loved my time with it. I can't wait to play more, and I think it really is sort of... They found a sweet spot of taking what they do really well and taking what people remember super well and bringing it into the 2016 modern era in a way that will appeal to a large number of people. Now, the key here is quality, because the Wii did sort of a similar thing years back when they brought motion control and Wii Sports and eventually New Super Mario Bros. And all these things to a really large-scale audience. But I felt like with the Wii, it was so gimmick-laced, it wasn't able to really attach on beloved properties to the game experiences. If you look at what most people played and their favorite things, Wii Fit, Wii Sports, Wii Play, those don't really have a lot to do with Pokemon or Mario or Zelda. Those games were still more core experiences, and those games were still very tried and true. Now with Pokemon Go and Zelda Breath of the Wild, it looks like Nintendo is opening up to possibly a future where they say, hey, what can we do to bridge our gap from what we know to be super quality, super high-end games and products, and then make those work for a 2016 modern America and modern society. And Pokemon Go does just that. While I personally think it's sort of a really basic version of the eventual Pokemon games, perhaps that's exactly the point, because what they'd like to do is transition some of these players to paying customers on the iPhone app, but then some of those players into Nintendo 3DS and eventually Nintendo NX owners. When Pokemon Sun and Moon release later this year, you better believe that a lot of people that dip their toes back into the Pokemon franchise, or for the first time experience the Pokemon franchise via Pokemon Go, will be interested to get a 3DS or a 2DS and check out what the fully fleshed out experience of Pokemon is all about. Now, this is exciting and also a little bit disappointing, because to me it shows that Nintendo, with their mobile endeavors, even though this is not part of the DNA partnership, this is part of the separate thing with Niantic and Nintendo and the Pokemon Company, but with their DNA partnership and those mobile apps, things like Miitomo and eventually Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing, they are going to be more bite-sized, introductionary ways for people to test out these franchises and eventually bring them over to the fully fledged titles that retail for $30, $40, $60 on 3DS, Wii U, and eventually NX. Now, that goes a step further when you consider what the NX is setting out to do. And of course, we don't have any really locked down answers, but we do have a lot of supposition, a lot of rumors, a lot of patents, and a lot of statements to go off of. And it looks like Nintendo is really trying to invade the wide audience once again. And we've heard comments from other publishers, we've heard comments from Nintendo themselves, and we've seen in the form of a controller that possibly you can take on the go as a handheld. Now the NX is most likely going to be a device that bridges the gap between handheld and home console. Again, a lot of bridging of gaps here to really appeal to as many people as possible and sort of be the everyman game and the everyman console, the everyman handheld, and hopefully not lose quality and not lose core mechanics and design along the way. But perhaps, let's say Nintendo NX is a device that allows you to play Zelda Breath of the Wild at home and then take some smaller version of that on the go with the controller. Is this something that people are very interested in because they have so much fun with Pokemon Go? They really would love to do that with all of Nintendo games, and that's how the NX, catches hold. And as it looks more like a mobile device, a mobile phone with a screen on the controller, which is what everyone is expecting it to have, will that be the go-to instead of an iPhone, instead of an iPad, for young people wanting to play games and get more into this stuff? Or are they better served to just double down their efforts on the mobile side? I think that if you had to go with the more safe bet, you would say that these mobile experiences like Pokemon Go, and hopefully they can garner the same sort of excitement, or at least a quarter of it would be enough for things like Animal Crossing Mobile and Fire Emblem Mobile. That appeals and has exposure to such a humongous audience. That probably is where they want to invest currently, but then I do think there is a lot to be said for carrying that over to the console and the retail space, because people are going to be interested to see more. And one of the critical and crucial things right now in any sort of marketing, whether it's Snapchat filters, Instagram advertisements, Twitter advertisements, or mobile phone games, is to convert your audience, expose them, and then convert them into paying customers. So obviously Pokemon Go has some work to do, because there are ways for you to spend money within the game, but eventually they will need to add content. Right now, gyms are exciting. Right now, the limited number of Pokemon they have is exciting, but eventually they're going to need to add to that roster, and they're going to need to add to the feature and functionality list that the game has, because I think right now it's brand new. It really has so much oomph and excitement behind it, but once that wears off and once people don't have the thing of, oh, it's brand new, oh, they'll work on it, they really are going to have to double down and work on it. So what can they add? What can they put in place to really build this out to be a long-standing and long-lasting smartphone app that is going to continue to grow rather than steadily decline? And I'll be curious to follow Nintendo's stock and see how that factors into the performance of Pokemon Go and vice versa, because right now they're at a super high point and it seems like nothing could go wrong. But if Pokemon Go begins to lose that time spent in-app and that download percentage and all of that, what does that do to Nintendo and what does that do to their plans? But let's say Pokemon Go is insanely successful. They add the right things. They continue to build out the app, and it's really great. I think that helps 3DS sales. I think that converts maybe not a huge percentage, but even a couple percentage points to handheld gaming, and the full-on Sun and Moon experiences in November would be a great get for Nintendo, because what they're looking to do is really build hype before the NX, hopefully storm the market in a way that may not be as normal or as sort of what you'd think would work, but perhaps they are going for a little bit of a different approach, which is a more unique console, a more unique controller/device experience, and a more unique demographic for their desired appeal. Because while games are growing and gaming as a whole has expanded in so many ways, some for the better, some for the worse, it still feels like the family consumer, the average consumer, is not being targeted as much by the Xboxes and the PlayStation 4s as they are by the iPhones and the Android devices, the iPads, and all the mobile apps. So if Nintendo can find a way to tap into that market space on their own proprietary device, now you're just rolling in dough, because you're selling people your NX handheld or your NX console, you're selling people the 3DS, and then you're selling them software for that, and this then becomes an alternative to an iPad, an alternative to an iPhone, a way for especially people that don't need or already have a phone to experience games on a higher level. You whet their appetite and bait them in almost with the lures from Pokemon Go and convert them into fully evolved gamers on the NX. I think that's kind of part of the plan, and it might be a brilliant plan. We'll have to see how it is fully executed and if it actually works in the coming months. But you have to remember, look at these dates timetable-wise, okay? Nintendo has huge success with Wii. Wii U is kind of a failure, but it has some really bright spots with Mario Kart 8, Super Smash Bros., Splatoon, some unique IP that do very well. Super Mario Maker was a huge success across the internet. And then they experience a huge just chasm of emptiness where there's no titles, and the Wii U is basically slowing to a crawl is probably too fast, slowing to death. But now you bring out Pokemon Go. Miitomo was kind of not really a success in the Western markets, but you bring out Pokemon Go, you update that throughout the rest of the year, you hopefully hit with either Fire Emblem or Animal Crossing before the NX launches in March. You have Pokemon Sun and Moon to convert these phone players into full-on Nintendo handheld owners in November, and then come March of 2017, you release your big product that hopefully has bold and bombastic ideas that are appealing and not only cater to the core gamer with hopefully solid third-party partnerships, but also the Good Morning America audience in the same way that the Wii did. But now you're finding a way to really combine your properties that have this cross-generational appeal, that have this beloved fandom across the globe, with your bold ideas and with a way to really infiltrate and integrate to people's daily lives, whether that's through more of a mobile device or through some sort of appeal that isn't just, hey, sit down at night after work and play my Xbox. Perhaps this is really Nintendo's time and chance to shine, and perhaps they really are on the right track. We always question their motives, we always question their decisions, and we always think they're a little bit screwballed in terms of how they come up with their plans for their consoles especially, but perhaps this is really a super smart move. Maybe it really is all just coincidental irony, and this was not the intention at all, and it's just good luck and good timing. But the success of Pokemon Go, the steps forward with Zelda Breath of the Wild, and the supposed nature of the NX console and handheld combination leads me to believe that maybe they're working us towards something larger here. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I know Pokemon Go is a humongous hit for most of you, but what do you think about it going forward? What do you think about Nintendo's possible plan and possible desire to really open up their beloved properties to a mass market audience and then bring them back home more closer to the Nintendo ecosystem for sort of a resurgence of popularity for Nintendo instead of just being this baby game maker as a really a symbol of gaming. You know, when I was little, I called it Nintendo, and maybe that's what they're going for again by having these sort of feelers and tentacles that go out and expose the masses in iPhone and Android form and then bring them in. And that's things like Pokemon, that's things like Mario, that's things like Zelda. And for better or worse, Microsoft and Sony don't really have those characters or those go-to properties that have the hold and the passion and the cross-generational appeal in the same way that Nintendo does. So perhaps it leads to massive success, as we've seen in the 25% stock growth and the $9 billion market value addition in just a short week of Pokemon Go's existence. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Hopefully this video is fun and informative and insightful. If you enjoyed it, give it a big thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts. And until next time, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Fantastic day. I love you all, and we'll see you all later.